Shamrock Energy, episode 11. I owe you guys this video. I'll tell you that, the initial reaction video for me is unadulterated. No one else's opinions go into those. That's what I'm going to keep trying to do initially after a game. It's for the same reasons that I don't really even go on Twitter during games, or if I do, I read very little into those opinions because that's where knee-jerk reactions are born. I can't do it. I'm emotional enough as is during these games. I'm miserable enough as these games. I don't need to see other people's opinions that maybe I disagree with during those games. And especially after a game like that where you kind of come away a little bit conflicted, I wanted to get my true opinions out there. So that's all good and well, but then as the week progresses, you want to rewatch the game, you want to rewatch the TV copy or whatever, NBC allows us to have. And then you also want to look at the All-22, and All-22 is, that's the mecca of film. It gives you the most visibility that you could possibly have as a football fan. And it kind of gives you, we're watching the same film that the coaches and players are watching. There's zero difference. So had the privilege of being able to do that. I have some finer points that I want to kind of refine. And I have some big picture points and conversations that need to be had. And some of those conversations we may not want to have, but we have to. So let's get into the finer points. Let's address the elephant in the room, and that's Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard had his best game in a Notre Dame uniform on Saturday. The first 4 drives, obviously, we know how much of a struggle it was. Missing the easy throws. Everybody saw that. It was why, what are they calling them now? Boo birds. That's why the boo birds were raining down on Riley Leonard in a way that I have not seen from Notre Dame fans. We will get into that. This was a guy in the beginning that was, struggling to make those easy throws. And the last time that I've seen that from a quarterback at Notre Dame was Brandon Wimbush. Missing him every which way, throws behind the receiver, sails a ball over the head of Chris Mitchell by 4 feet, misses Cooper Flanagan on an easy throw where Cooper Flanagan ends up getting injured. His ankle's messed up. He's not going to be able to play next week. And you're watching, you're like, okay, this is a real concern. And it got to the point where it felt like Riley Leonard had one more drive to get it figured out before he got pulled. And he figured it out on that drive. Even before that, even as those easy throws were missed, there is some context that's required, and context that you could really only get from an All-22. Not only, but it really helps give context for starters. It's not like he was done any favors being pinned inside his 10 for, 2 full possessions. Critical errors on special teams allowed for this, and that's something that's going to need to get tightened up now. There was a lot of that, and I think that, there's a lot of quarterbacks that would struggle in that situation regardless of who the opponent is. So let's give a little bit of grace there. I thought that even in those first 4 drives, Riley Leonard showed some good things in keeping his eyes downfield, navigating the pocket more appropriately to what a quarterback should. I look at Riley Leonard and I saw a player that was trying to do all the right things. I look at the performance as a whole as this is now the baseline for Riley Leonard. This can't be where it ends. And if it is where it ends, we kind of know what this team is then. After those first 4 drives, though, we start taking more shots. Good things happen. Riley Leonard has a cannon, throws a better deep ball than what I expected him to. He's throwing the ball at the far hash and throws it down to Faison, and it ends up, being an incomplete pass. The receiver probably should have come towards the ball a little bit more. I think that he widened out his route a little bit too much. And it should have been a completion, to be honest with you. It was all up. It's like a 70-yard throw. It was perfect. the throw that he had to Mitchell Evans, that if it wasn't pass interference, it very well could have been a touchdown, was a dime. It was perfect. And, you take the two misses into account. You can't ignore them. But in that drive, that was all so essential for him. He hits his dime. He hits his bomb over to Beau Collins. Gets the monkey off the back, touchdown. After that, good things continued. He was going through his progressions. There were completions that he made where he scans the field and his third option's not open, and so he bangs it down to the fourth. I like that. I think that there's an emotional conversation that's happening, and there's going to be some time to get emotional. I think that that's going to be a majority of the video today, to be honest with you, because I do think it's a big picture conversation. But, if Steve Angeli was the quarterback in the second half and he was doing the things that Riley Leonard did, we would be looking at this as we have our answer now at quarterback. And this goes right into the hands of my argument that I made the last 2 weeks, basically, and that is the best chance for this offense to make a run is Riley Leonard just getting better. And he got better. There were improvements that were made. And so we should acknowledge that. We should also be honest with ourselves and say it's not where it needs to be yet. And I think that this needs to now be the baseline for Riley Leonard and Mike Denbrock and this offense. If we could do that, we have something that we can build on. If that's as good as it gets, then we have issues. And the jury's still out on that. I also think that in watching the All-22 film, especially this week, my original argument that Marcus Freeman had some overarching influence over the offense and how it was getting called, I believe that that's out the window. I think that this was Mike Denbrock's game plan to a T. It actually felt like a Mike Denbrock game plan too, from what we had historically seen when he was at Notre Dame and all of his various stops thereafter. I think that those are encouraging signs. They make me feel a little bit better about where this offense can go moving forward. And again, I hearken back to what Mike Denbrock said after the fall scrimmage that they had, and that is, I don't like what we have right now, but in week 7, I will. I'm taking him literally now. And I have to say, I think that for the most part, Notre Dame took a step in the right direction on offense. And by the way, guys, I understand that the old tripod's a little off kilter. Long story on that. I'm sorry. It's not that salacious of a story, but it's just a little messed up. So I might have to get a new one. It is what it is. But I think that if you're going to look at this game for what it is, and All-22 is amazing for this. You could take all the emotions out. You don't hear the boos. You don't read too much into the body language. Just play after play after play. Rewind. Let's see. Let's break it down, right? And I'll say I came away a lot more pleased with Leonard's performance. I came away more encouraged by how the receivers played. I think that Beau Collins is clearly in a contract year, if you will. He's fighting for an NFL spot. And his effort is consistent play in and play out. I think that Chris Mitchell took a big step forward in the right direction last week, not just because of the plays that he made and the catches that were had. I think that his effort was consistent, and I think that he telegraphs his routes a little bit too much on the top end. That's something that's going to have to continue to improve. There were some bad throws by Riley Leonard. There's no doubt about that. And those have to get cleaned up to a degree. And if they can, then we're going to start to finally see this offense come to light. Now, I'm not here to make the prediction that that's going to happen, but I am saying that if you remove all emotion from it, those are the signs, and you have to read those. I think that you start to see a little bit of what Riley Leonard can bring to this offense. And again, it wasn't an impressive performance particularly, but he did also account for 300 yards of total offense as well. The weapon that he has, it's undisputed, it's undeniable, indisputable. that's a guy that brings a lot there. And if we're going to look into the Louisville game, they've allowed quite a bit of scrambling yardage to be allowed against the quarterbacks that they've been up against, Jacksonville State and Georgia Tech, respectively. So that's that, and I'll say there's a tendency that I'm picking up on, and it's very easy to spot, even in this game. They do a inside zone insert. So what that means is they're bringing the tight ends in, and then once the tight end is brought in, they snap the ball immediately. It's going to be a run. They haven't thrown the ball in that personnel and in that shift. That's something that I think that we need to have a little bit of a tendency breaker conversation on. You know, what are we going to do to kind of make Louisville respect us through the air when we do that? Because that's kind of the bread and butter. It's counter, inside zone. It's quarterback counter, quarterback power. Those are the staples right now that we're running. And so that's something that I just want to point out. I think that that's something that we need to sort of look at. We need to have a tendency breaker put in there. I think Mike Denbrock is more than capable of doing that. I think on defense, Howard Cross and Riley Mills are simply not playing to the standard that we expected them to play on. I think that Riley Mills had some did I say Riley Leonard? I hope I didn't. But Riley Mills had some pretty bad reps. I think Jason Onye is playing better than him right now. This is something that has to change. This is something that has to evolve. If it doesn't, I fear that, you know, we're in a weird spot. You know, secondary played phenomenally. It was lights out. That's one the best secondary in the country, if you ask me. Just elite play all the way around. Jordan Clark has been so much better than I expected him to be. And I'll say it's kind of weird. I expected there to be a drop-off between Thomas Harper and Jordan Clark. And I expected it to be an upgrade from R.J. Oben to Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and I was completely wrong about both of those things. R.J. Oben is not playing the game the way that it should be. I think we need Josh Burnham back. He's questionable for this game. R.J. Oben, this is really truly a last chance if you ask me, because if Josh Burnham comes back and R.J. Oben plays poorly again, arm tackles, just not in the right spot, not able to take on the double teams as a 7 technique, then it was a failed experiment. Happy to have him as a depth piece. I think that those are just things that we have to acknowledge at this point. I've not been impressed by what I've seen from R.J. Oben. I don't think anybody is, and that's not breaking news. Apparently, the adjustment from a 9 technique to a 7 technique is just too much to ask for. This has not been good. We need Josh Burnham back. Boubacar Traore, I love what NFL, like guys that follow the NFL scouting and draft process, I love what they're saying about him, and he's one of them. He is one of them. He has got first-round talent written all over it. If he could continue this, look out. I think that, you know, we've said this, if Jordan Botelho was to go down, Boubacar Traore was a guy that could not only step in admirably, but you could almost notice a bit of an upgrade in some instances, and we're seeing that. He's playing lights out football right now. I'm very impressed with him. Junior Tui Alamaka was someone I didn't expect to step up the way that he did. Best game in a Notre Dame uniform. Shout out to him. Not as much of a burst physically off the line. Doesn't have that type of athleticism, but he's such an instinctual football player that we're starting to see those instincts come into play, that he makes up for it. We need Junior Tui Alamaka to play the way that he is. So that's great. Drake Bowen kind of had a coming out party. That's a guy that was playing with some juice at that linebacker spot. Very enjoyable. Kingston Viliamasa, Jalen Sneed doing their thing. Jack Kaiser I felt a little bit invisible, but I'm not overly concerned. We kind of know what Jack Kaiser is. Adon Schuler revealing himself to be a very good football player. Him and Xavier Watts on the field at the same time is awesome. It's such a luxury. It's an embarrassment of riches. Makes a boneheaded mistake. We know it. That was bad. Really left points on the board or off the board, if you ask me. I think that was a critical mistake by Adon Schuler. Christian Gray is special. Benjamin Morrison is Benjamin Morrison. And now we're going to see more of Leonard Moore and Carson Hobbs. And one of the biggest reasons for that is Jaden Mickey is transferring. Just wasn't there. And it's a shame because you loved Jaden Mickey's story. I loved him getting recruited when he did. Thought that he was going to be the guy, and he kind of was advertised as the guy. It wasn't Benjamin Morrison necessarily. And unfortunately, the light hasn't fully flipped on at Notre Dame. So wish him the best. Now you are going to see more Leonard Moore, more Carson Hobbs. And Carson Hobbs, I believe, is slotted right behind Christian Gray now. So that's going to be interesting. Am I overly concerned? No, I'm not. That is one of the best recruited positions that Notre Dame has, and that talent was always breathing down Jaden Mickey's neck. He knew it, and this was a business decision for him. He preserves a year of eligibility or a red shirt, and he gets his degree from Notre Dame. It's a win-win for him. On the offensive line, Pat Coogan had his best game in a Notre Dame uniform. Rocco Spindler graded out closely next to him. Anthony Knapp continues to struggle. That's going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. Look, it has to get a little bit better from a pass protection standpoint. There's no doubt about that. That unit is going to be tested across the board. In addition to that, I thought initially Sam Pendleton stood out for the wrong reasons, and he did, but he made up for it with some pretty dominant blocking in the run game. So, and then you've got, I think, your most consistent, quiet offensive lineman on the roster right now. I think it's Emil Wagner. Big test coming up against Louisville, and we'll talk more about that later on this week. But now I do think it's time to have the conversation about what this team really is, and what I wanted, and I think what we all craved after this game was for us to come away with a clear answer as to this is what Notre Dame is going to be, and we didn't get it to a degree that I think was satisfying. There's a lot here. And there's a lot I want to say. So bear with me, because I'm going to try and get these points out as concisely as possible. But I've had some time to think about it. And here it goes this. Okay. The boos at Notre Dame Stadium. Notre Dame fans have not been known. Normally, Notre Dame fans are more deferential. They're not going to boo their home team or a certain player should things not be going the way that they wanted to. And that was something that happened on Saturday. Now, I didn't get the volume on the TV copy, but I heard it and saw it, and it was pretty thunderous. Now, I'd rather them be that than apathetic, and I think that there's good reason for it. I think that Notre Dame fans and players are over the quarterback rental era. We had high expectations coming into this season of Marcus Freeman. You have world-class coordinators on offense and defense. You've got a really good position coaching staff all across the board. The talent was in place. You paid $1 million plus for Riley Leonard. The expectations have been there. They're not going away just because we like you. And I think that Notre Dame fans are over it. They're sick and tired of waiting. When you have the pieces in place the way that we have been told that they've been in place, and I don't think we've been gaslighted on that either. I think that remains true. We expect a certain product to be out there, and we're not seeing it. And we haven't really seen it this year. So I think the boos are warranted. I think that Notre Dame fans catch a very bad rap for being quiet, for sitting down during games. And I got to be honest with you guys, I've told you this before, but if you haven't heard me say it, I'll say it again. I've been to 60-plus home games from 2010 all the way to 2018, which is a very interesting era. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. If you want fans to be louder, if you want fans to be freaking rah-rah and as loud as an SEC stadium, you want the experience to improve, Here's a couple ideas for you. One, schedule better home games. You expect me to get jazzed about freaking Northern Illinois and Miami of Ohio? Like, South Bend gets up for 6 days out of the year. And those are two of the options that I have as a Notre Dame fan. I said it going into this season. I think that that's whack. I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. It's kind of an insult, to be honest with you. And then Notre Dame fans get dragged through the mud for not being loud enough. I'm sorry. I've been to a lot of games, guys. No one gets up for those types of games. I've been to the Toledos. I've been to the freaking Tulsas. I'm pretty well versed in what that stadium can be like. And I was just at the Ohio State game last year, and that place was electric. You want a louder stadium? You want a better experience for your team? Schedule better games. No one wants to watch 2 MAC games at home. And if you're going to schedule them like that, perform better. The performance just isn't there right now. I felt as though, here's something I do want to point out though. I felt as though the team was physically ready to play. Really, I did. I think the defense took care of business on the first drive. Would I have deferred the kickoff and put my defense out there first? Probably not, but that's neither here nor there. I just think it sends the wrong message. I think that we respected Miami of Ohio way too much. And that's a Marcus Freeman problem that we'll get into. But, they took care of business, and then we muffed the punt. I think mentally we weren't ready to play, but physically we were. So that's something. But, yeah, when you're watching this team, you're like, why would people be you're losing 3-0 to Miami of Ohio and your quarterback can't hit the broadside of a barn. I'm just saying, these are things that realistic fans, which I think Notre Dame fans are much more realistic than what the national narrative is. Listen, this year was a year where Notre Dame had a window. Soft schedule. You beat A&M, you're in the driver's seat, and you've got the talent across the board to get it done. I maintained that this team still has the talent to get it done. But when you piss down your leg against NIU and you look good against Purdue, and then you come back against Miami of Ohio and you kind of look bad, and the main questions that we have aren't getting addressed, they're going to boo. Oh, and by the way, we kicked the can down the road on this whole quarterback development thing for basically 2 years in a row now. And after the first time, we don't want to be here for the speed bumps. We would just rather go in-house with a Kenny Minchie or a CJ Carr, and we'll deal with the bumps in the meantime. But when you pay the amount of money that you paid for Riley Leonard, and we've been told all during the season last year that Riley Leonard was coming to Notre Dame, we expect more continuity than what we're getting. And I think that that's a fair expectation. No one's trying to see that shit. No one's trying to watch what that was when it's a guy that is supposed to be a finished product. Far from it, actually. Far from it. And you look, and there's a lot of frustration that's built up there because of the story about how this happened. We're not dumb, okay? He was injured when you went and got him, and then he was perhaps more injured than what he let on, and he misses all these freaking reps in the spring. And you look at Marcus Freeman, and this is on Marcus Freeman. You have to look at your head man and say, that's a dumb move, dude. You got to be smarter than that as a head coach. And another piece of frustration, I think a lot of this is directed really to Marcus Freeman, is that you have done everything to put the pieces in place. No head coach has ever had the resources that Marcus Freeman currently has, including Brian Kelly. And yet you're looking and you're like, we're finding a way to fuck this all up. There's frustration there. It's justified. Just because we love Notre Dame doesn't mean we got to be freaking waving pom-poms while you're down 3-0 against Miami of Ohio. I've seen a lot of that shit. from Notre Dame fans like, man, the stadium experience sucks. No shit, it sucks. God, I mean, no one wants to watch that. I'd rather go to a freaking license branch than watch that offense for the first 4 drives against that team. That is not good. I think that Miami of Ohio is a well-coached team, but the talent isn't even close. And so you're looking at this, and you start to think, and you start to wonder. And I'm not going where you think I'm going, but I am going to bring it up because it's important. Like, I'm not going to just sit there and bury my head in the sand on it either. I think there's a lot of coaches across the country that can get more out of this team than what Marcus Freeman is right now. And no, this isn't me saying that Marcus Freeman should get fired. I don't think that. But I will say that it's in year 3, and man, this is just like a relationship. Year 3, you start to see you no longer have the spokesperson version of who you're seeing. We've been with Marcus now for about 2.5 years, and you know, in a head coaching capacity, and you start to see like, okay, there's some blemishes there. There are some things that we probably overlooked, and we were probably in denial about this working out the way that we thought it was going to. I think that when you have a head coach that has gotten everything that he's wanted this year, I was happy to make the excuses last year because that was a bullshit offseason and he got put in a bad spot. But you got everything that you wanted and the product on the field isn't showing itself. You're fucking up in press conferences. You're starting to say the same things that Brian Kelly said. Winning is hard. Fuck you. Winning is hard. Fuck you. I get it. But come on. Not against Miami of Ohio. And you come out, you know, before the kickoff and you say, well, we got to do what Miami of Ohio allows us to do. Fuck that. You're Notre Dame. This is the most talented team that we've had since 93. I've said it time and time again. And then our head man that we thought was going to be completely different from Brian Kelly comes out there and he's basically the same guy. He's jaded. I thought he was pissed off. Truly, I thought that he was pissed off because it fell short of the standard. No, I think that he's pissed off because he doesn't have a new contract extension. And he knows that this is standing in the way of that. It's business. It is what it is. Doesn't mean that I dislike Marcus Freeman because I don't. If I was a head coach, I'd probably feel the same way. But when you get paid the amount of money that you do, I should be able to criticize and call into question the job that you're doing. I got news for you guys. There's a lot of people on the beat that are very, very slow to call things out like that. And you know what I say? Fuck that. I'm not in the press conferences. I'm not asking questions. I know how the University of Notre Dame is. You ask one tough question, you ain't getting that. You're not getting the microphone anymore. They're not going to allow you to ask the questions. Well, guess what? I'm not there. I'm not in the press conferences. I'm not in the press box. I'm here. And so I'm going to tell you the fucking truth about how I feel. If you're getting paid the amount of money that you are, I should be able to criticize that. Because guess what? I don't make anywhere close to that. And if I'm not performing at my job the way that I should be, you know what happens? I get fired. And I don't have $1 million+ multi-million-dollar nest egg to fall back on. I don't. No contract buyouts here. You know what I get? I get 3 months of severance tops, and that's it. So spare me with that. That's the bottom line. Like you have to be honest as a Notre Dame fan, and that's what this is about. This has always been about honesty on this channel. I'm not going to lie to you just because I like Marcus Freeman, just because I was one of the OGs that said Marcus Freeman should be the head coach at Notre Dame. I said it the minute that Brian Kelly left for LSU. It's because I thought what we were going to get is some fucking juice, and it ain't there. There was a good point that Ryan Roberts made on Irish Breakdown. He said, I wish that Notre Dame would bench Riley Leonard and put Steve Angeli in just to show that that's not the problem right now. I think he's right to a degree. I really, really do. I think that if one of the problems gets addressed, another problem will pop up. When has special teams been an issue for this team? And all this, like, then you figure out the punting situation, and then you have a muff punt, you have a fucking hold that shouldn't have been called, but still, you have a fucking hold that brings back this amazing return from Jeremiah Love. You've got a knuckleheaded play from a Don Schuler. Riley Leonard standing up like a wedding dick and getting the ball knocked out. Jaden Greathouse can't fall on it. Miami of Ohio gets the ball back. It's shit like this. Like, that's symptomatic of something deeper that's going on here. And I don't know if it's just because this team wants to get up for the big games and they look at Miami of Ohio as something that they got to get through. I almost hope that that's the case right now. Or if that's just what this team is, if they're sloppy, if there's a lack of buy-in. And I can't blame the players for having a lack of buy-in to a degree. Let's just be honest about it. I don't think Riley Leonard got voted in as a captain. I think that he got freaking handpicked by the coaching staff and plopped into that position. That's concerning for multiple reasons. One, I don't think that the players respect Riley Leonard the way that we would like him to. Not the way that the media told us that they did. I don't think so. I also think that that's also a concern that you don't have enough senior leadership or junior or senior leadership that was willing to step up for that captaincy role. So you had to pick in freaking Riley Leonard. That's concerning on multiple fronts. And this is year 3 now, year 3 under Freeman, that I have to question what the locker room leadership is like at Notre Dame. That should never happen. Not at Notre Dame. Not at Notre Dame. You got the best young men in America, the most well-rounded, perfect freaking future presidents on your roster, and you can't find someone that wants to step up and be a leader for the 3rd year in a row. That's a problem. And I'll tell you something, if senior leadership was strong, they wouldn't have come out mentally flat the way that they did against Miami of Ohio. They wouldn't have lost to NIU. This is an issue. This is a habit under Marcus Freeman. Shitty locker room leadership results in the losses that we've seen, and it results in the performances that we've seen against lesser opponents. And all of that should be circled around Marcus Freeman. You've got the best coordinators in the country on offense and defense. Special teams, I think he's in the 5th percentile. I think he's up there as probably like a top 15 coordinator. And so your job as a head coach, then I presume, would be to figure out this leadership thing. Would be to be able to push the right buttons for your team to get them to their full potential. And it's not working. Whatever buttons he's pushing, it ain't working. And if all else fails, you should have a pulse on your team, a good enough pulse on your team to be able to put the senior leaders in place that need to be put in there. So that way when shit kind of hits the fan and your quarterback that you paid millions of dollars for, $1 million plus for, is shit in the bed, you have leadership that's able to say, hey guys, fucking calm down. Let's stay focused, okay? Long game, long season, play at a time. Let's take care of business. Something like that. I'm not getting that vibe whatsoever. And that is the most concerning part of this all. The dudes that are playing with the most juice right now are the younger guys. And this was something that was happening under Brian Kelly too. And then by the time that they get to junior and senior level, senior year, that juice leaves. What is it about Notre Dame in this program that was under Brian Kelly and now Marcus Freeman that just wrings the towel dry? There's no soul. That's what we thought we were signing up for. We thought it was going to be hype. We thought there was going to be a dog mentality at every position. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it at all. I think that there's more dogs on this team than what we've seen in the past for sure, but with how talented this group is, it's not there. And I'm going to say something else too. I don't get it from Riley Leonard at all. I thought that how he handled, in fairness to him, how he handled this game and how he's handled the criticism that he's gotten, I could tell he's affected by it. I think it would affect any of us if we're being honest about it. I love the way that he bounced back and really just stayed true, stayed focused, and was able to kind of come through with something. But I got to be real with you guys. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling him. There's something about it. Like, it's just soft. It's feminine. It's not what you should be as a quarterback. And I'm going to tell you this. If I'm feeling that, I can only imagine what the people in the locker room are feeling. And this was our so-called captain. I don't think so. I don't think so, guys. I hate saying it. I hate being that guy. I hate freaking like making the assumptions that I'm making, but I think that they're very, very well warranted. I don't see what I need to see for this team to make a playoff run. Now we're in the same old spot where it's just win the game that's in front of you, and what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. There's going to be time to figure that out. But You are in this spot where you're like, come on, just win out, do what you have to do to win the game in front of you. And that is not what a national championship team is. And that's what I expected from this team was we're going to make a legitimate run at this, because I still maintain that it's ripe for the picking. No one's playing particularly amazing right now. I think the Tennessee's probably the hottest team in the country at the moment. They're the flavor of the month. That could fade over time, or they can maintain that energy. Like with Notre Dame, there is no flavor. It's fucking vanilla. It's really good defense, really elite running backs, and an offensive line that's sort of just kind of thrown together because that's just where we're at right now, apparently. And a quarterback that's not... He's figuring it out, but I don't think he has the pulse on this team that we would like. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in the building. But these are the things that I'm feeling right now. And it's bullshit that we have to be in this position. And that's what I'm doing. I'm publicly calling out Marcus Freeman. This has to change. This has to get fixed. If you don't make the philosophical changes that are needed, and that goes deeper than what we're even willing to talk about today, then you are not the head coach at Notre Dame after this year. I think that this team, as it stands currently, and this can change, is an 8-4 team at best. I truly believe that right now. That is unacceptable. That goes worse and beyond the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario for me was 10-2. For this team, the talent that they had, with the staff that they had in place. So it needs to change. Now, here's the good news. If we're just going to break down the game for what it is, you beat Miami of Ohio by 25 points, and you didn't play anywhere close to what you're capable of playing like, right? The offense, I felt like, took an overarching step in the right direction. I think Mike Denbrock's getting more comfortable in calling plays for Riley Leonard. I think that he could call very similar plays this weekend, and if Riley Leonard and the receivers and just the team as a whole execute a little bit better, you're getting away with a win, and you might even have a dominant win over Louisville. Those are good things. But the lack of leadership right now in the locker room and the lack of leadership from the head man are very, very evident. I'm looking at Marcus Freeman. I'm seeing him in the press conferences. You read his body language, which has to be the worst in the country, maybe minus Hugh Freeze. And you're like, this dude doesn't want to be here right now. That he's fucking over it. He's as over it as the fans are. And I know I'm probably reading too much into that. I mean, Urban Meyer didn't look like he wanted to be there anytime he was on the sideline. But I'm just saying, like, this is something that you got to take into account. Moving forward, there's no more grace here. There's no more goodwill. It's kind of all out the window at this point. You need to take care of business against Louisville. Your players have to come together in some way that they're not right now. I will end it on this. I like that Swamp Kings documentary about the Florida Gators when they had that run with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. I know it was more of a fluff piece than anything. And Tim Tebow's kind of got that similar attitude to Riley Leonard for religious reasons and just like the perfect human type thing. Except I'll say that Tim Tebow had a little bit more of an edge. And he said something good after their national championship season. They play the season after, and he goes, something was just missing. And they fell short of the expectations. That team was so talented that, they still got to the SEC championship, if I'm not mistaken. But he goes, something was just missing. That's happening right now at Notre Dame. That's happening with this team. And I fear that rarely gets found in season. That's not something that you could just go rummage for and find it in a haystack as the season progresses. If it's not there, it's not there. That's how you get at Notre Dame. You don't have the talent that Florida had, although you are very talented. That's how you get stuck with an 8-4 record if you lose to NIU the way that they did. And that's another thing. I always have these final points, but that's the other thing. That loss shook Notre Dame at its core, at its foundation. It defeated the fans. It defeated the players. It completely changed the way that they looked at themselves, no matter what they say publicly. I don't give a shit. You lose that game, they question who they are. And if it didn't impact the way that they view themselves, it impacted the way that the coaching staff viewed themselves because they got out-coached. That's something you can't look past. You go out and you dominate Purdue. And then we all know that we have to figure something out through the air. And they do what they can to figure that out, and they did a fine job in doing so. But it's not the performance itself that's concerning. It's the energy that's there, or lack thereof. It's the mental errors. We are going into week 5 now. Week 5 against a good opponent. I think the best or second best left on this schedule. There can be none of that bullshit. Now, this game's going to be on Peacock, which is amazing. Just phenomenal. Thank you, NBC. Thank you so much. Biggest home game of the year, and you decide to put it on fucking Peacock. You guys are useless. I hate the NBC contract. You got Dan Hicks and Jason Garrett out there that are... I like Dan Hicks. I've liked him in the past, but he ain't... we have come a long way from the Charlie Jones and freaking Tom Hammonds. Like, this is bullshit, what they do to Notre Dame. I mean, like, you want big game energy. Those guys are not the guys that I want in that booth. So you got a little bit of a lack of buzz going into this game. Louisville fans ain't even showing up, and they damn near took the stadium over when they came over in a year where Notre Dame was down bad in 2014. Was it 2014? It was 2014. I mean, the fuck? Like, there's no buzz around this game, and Notre Dame fans, I'm there with you. I am like, we got to get through this shit, and I'm tired of feeling that way. We should have, this should be a celebration when we watch Notre Dame football play. I haven't felt good watching us yet. Not during Purdue, it's just relief. That's it. It's miserable. It's a miserable product that we're watching right now. And it would be one thing if it was the execution, or if it was just how they played, or the talent level, and they're going out and they're giving it their very fucking best. It's the lack of mental acuity that's going on with this team. It's a lack of mental and emotional intelligence to say, fuck this. Saturday is here, and we're going to kick the shit out of anybody that is in front of us. They don't have that. And who does that start with? That starts with Freeman. We got sold something that we're not getting right now. That better change coming up on this Saturday. Episode 11, Shamrock Energy. Would love to hear your thoughts. Smash the like, smash the subscribe, comment. Let's discuss, baby. I look forward to the conversation continuing. This is going to be an interesting year nonetheless, and I'm going to keep pumping out videos, as many as I possibly can. My first goal is 100 subscribers. That's what I'm going for, and I've got 25 right now. It seems as though YouTube's weird. I'm finding this out. You go from almost 200 views, one video, and then it goes down to like 10. It's the same content. I'm the same dude. So something's going on when it comes to like the visibility. I'm not saying I'm getting shadow banned, because why would they? I'm not important enough. But it's just how it is. So I'm going to continue to pump out videos as consistently as I possibly can, because there continues to be a ton that is needed to be discussed. I look forward to having that conversation with you all. There will be more to come. Also, tune in to the First and Gold podcast. We're going to be live today. We are switching it to a live format. We're going to try it out, see how it is on Twitter, or on X. We're going to do a Twitter Spaces or an X Spaces, and hopefully we can get some callers to come in. That'll be fun. So let's keep the discussion live, man. I am fully and freely able to admit when I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong right now, and that's concerning. I'll talk to you later.